York State. And for those of you unfamiliar with the Preservation League, we are New York's statewide, not-for-profit historic preservation organization. And we believe that reinvesting in our historic buildings and neighborhoods is one of the best ways we know to create the kind of places that New Yorkers want to live and work and invest in, and that others want to come and visit and enjoy. The League is really New York's preservation voice for the entire state. And through a collection of programs, statewide programs, we foster grassroots projects that use historic preservation as a tool to revitalize neighborhoods and reinvigorate downtowns, to stimulate economic activity and private reinvestment, and to save special and meaningful places all over our state. Well, one special and meaningful place in our state is right here in the South ViIlage. And this place is valued not just by the people that live here, but also by scores of New Yorkers and people from throughout the nation who value it for its immigrant, its architectural, its artistic, its musical history. This place is very significant in so many ways. Fortunately, much of the South ViIlage has remained unchanged over the years. But really, the threat of demolition and inappropriate development looms large. And I think what we've seen over time is kind of a slow erosion of the historic character of this place due to inappropriate additions and alterations and outright teardowns. In fact, today, you're going to see some images of a lot of the places we've lost already. Places like the Provincetown Playhouse, places like the building right across the street, the Poe House. I think the Judson Church houses also have been lost. And it's really a shame, because what is so significant about this place is it is a window into the life of an early immigrant community. And it's unlike anything else in New York City. And I think it's particularly well known because of its Italian-American heritage, its immigrant and working class Italian-American history. And you find the buildings from that time, from that immigrant time, still extant right here in the South ViIlage. The tenements that they lived in, the schools, some of the schools that they went to school in, some of the buildings that had services that served them, some of the reform housing projects that were built specifically for them. In fact, the church here in Greenwich Village, which is St. Anthony's of Padua, is probably right now the extant oldest church in the United States built for an immigrant Italian-American population. These buildings are still here. And it's not just the Italian-American background either. It's also the African-American history that's strong here. And I think at one time around the 1860s, over 5,000 African-Americans called this neighborhood home. And in fact, it was called Little Africa at one time. So it's a really rich amalgamation of all of these different cultures, and it's still tremendously intact. But it's those threats and those continuing losses that we're very concerned about. That's why in 2003, the Preservation League gave a grant to the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation to do a detailed report documenting over 750 historic buildings right here in the South ViIlage. And it was that report that was the impetus for a proposal for the creation of a South ViIlage Historic District. Now in 2010, the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission designated only 1/3 of that district and left the other 2/3 of this very important, significant, both on a statewide and national level, district basically unprotected. And so what the League is doing here today is to add our voice to the chorus, the growing chorus of residents like you, of businesses, not-for-profits, of organizations, of elected officials that say that the time is now for the New York Landmarks Preservation Commission to designate the South ViIlage in its entirety so that it will be protected. So what we're going to do today is list the South ViIlage on the Preservation League of New York State's 7 to Save Endangered Properties list. That endangered properties list is really our statewide list of the most important and endangered threatened resources in New York State. And by listing it, and by the ensuing work that we plan on doing here, we hope that the urgency will help increase the urgency of the listing and help bring new attention to all of you who are working so hard to get this place listed, and listed now. We really feel that swift action by the Landmarks Preservation Commission is vital to complete the landmark listing of the South ViIlage. And there's great support for this. There's great support from all of you, from elected officials and from others, and this place is already eligible to be listed on the state and national registers of historic places. So we believe that the time for listing is now. And no organization has been more outspoken about this imperative than the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation and its Executive Director, Andrew Berman. So I want to give Andrew a second. I want to give Andrew a few minutes to speak a little bit specifically about the South ViIlage and its importance and everything that you're doing here that we hope to help with in the coming months. Andrew? You want to switch hands?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much to the Preservation League of New York State for this announcement today of the South ViIlage as one of New York State's 7 to save. We could not have gotten to this point without the League's strong support. As Jay said, they funded the study, which took many years, where we documented the history of every single one of 750 buildings that helped lead to the proposal for a South ViIlage Historic District, a third of which was designated in 2010. The remaining 2/3 of which is endangered, and we're losing more and more of it every day. You know, I want to say it was 10 years ago in 2002 that the League listed Gansevoort Market as one of its 7 to save, and the following year the Landmarks Preservation Commission designated that New York City Historic District. So we're hoping that the 7 to save designation will have a similar effect this year. As Jay said, the South ViIlage was such a unique historic resource. It was a place of immigrants and innovators. Within just a few blocks, or feet in some cases, of where we are, some incredibly important pieces of our state and our country's history took place. Lenny Bruce was arrested just down the block. Bob Dylan wrote "Blowin' in the Wind" just around the corner on Bleecker Street. The oldest extant Italian-American church in the nation is St. Anthony of Padua's, just on the other side of Houston Street from here. The first non-profit theater in the United States, the Circle in the Square, was just down the block. Provincetown Playhouse, where Eugene O'Neill and Edna St. Vincent Millay wrote, where Bernice Abbott lived in the apartments above, was located just around the corner on McDougal Street. This is a place where so many figures in the cultural history of our nation over the last 100 or more years lived, worked, innovated, and made their mark on our culture.
Tell the Landmarks Commission.
Louisa May Alcott lived with her uncle Bronson Alcott just around the corner again here on McDougal Street. So there's so much rich history here, but we are losing it. And if you look here, this is a map of the South ViIlage. About a third of it was designated a landmark district by the city in 2010. The remaining part is not yet landmarked. We've lost the Tunnel Garage. The Circle in the Square Theater was destroyed. The Sullivan Street Playhouse, just down the block from here, where the longest running play in American history, The Fantastics, ran for 50 years, destroyed. The Provincetown Playhouse and Apartments, almost completely destroyed. Just a few blocks from here on the corner of Thompson and Spring Street, we have a building that's slated to be demolished with a completely inappropriate replacement to take its place. And of course, right across the street, this was a wonderful row of 1862 houses, which were originally built for merchants, were altered so that immigrant families lived there in the 19th century, and then in the early 20th century, artist studios were added on top as artists and writers and painters began to occupy this neighborhood. Now we see there's a gaping hole here in the heart of our neighborhood where there used to be a continuity of history. And if the Landmarks Preservation Commission does not intercede, we're going to see more and more of this happening here. The threats that we face are not just from these individual buildings being lost, but as many people know, on either side of the South ViIlage, the city is currently considering these two very significant zoning changes, the NYU rezoning application to the east and the Hudson Square rezoning application to the south and west. these will increase development pressure on the historic South Village right here in the middle. And it's particularly frustrating that the city is allowing these two proposals from developers to move forward while we've been stymied in our efforts to get the remainder of the South Village considered for landmark designation. For these to move forward while this sits on the shelf is completely unacceptable. We need the city to move forward right away. And it's not too late. Now is the time for the city to act, to preserve the South Village, to landmark the entire neighborhood. This is such an important piece of the village's history, it's such an important piece of New York's history, and it's such an important piece of American history. So we are going to light a fire under the city to move ahead. When they designated, they said that this would just be a first step, but we can't wait forever for that second step. We need them to move forward. People dearly love this neighborhood. They are proud of the immigrant history, the Italian-American heritage, the artists, the writers, the painters who hone their craft, who had such an impact on the culture from this neighborhood. So we're here today to thank the League for this designation, for recognizing the importance of the South Village, and for helping us to call on the Landmark Preservation Commission to designate the South Village today. Thank you very much.